Everyone, do you want to do a old school feel with your Savage Worlds game? Maybe having a dungeon delving party, going looking for treasure so they can level up, defeating monsters room after room just so that they can get the experience they need to get to that next level? Well, can you do it in Savage Worlds? Let's see.
Savage Worlds, one of the best games of the day.
Hey everyone, it's Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. We'd love your support. We'd love your likes. We'd love your subscribes. All the support goes directly into hosting the channel and all that kind of good stuff, and buying Savage Worlds products, which is the whole point of this channel anyway. And so the more we have, the more we can look at, the more we can talk about. And we also have a podcast called Mastering the RPG, which is a general podcast, more kind of game master ideas, improvement opportunities, stuff like that. So what do I normally talk about? Savage Worlds, right? Today I'm talking a little bit about OSR and the OSR feel in Savage Worlds. Can we get that? I mean, Savage Worlds really doesn't have that aesthetic, but maybe we want a little bit of that. Maybe we want to have a dungeon delving feel with monsters around every corner where we're just trying to defeat and we're just trying to collect treasure just because we want to gain that next level, and experience points drives that. So you can see where I'm coming from, right? I'm looking more at this XP kind of style of game where each gold piece is worth an experience points. How hard the monsters you defeat are, they're giving you experience, and it's a lot different feel than kind of the milestone leveling that you normally would get in a Savage Worlds game. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, why should we do that? Well, I mean, one of the cool things is it gives kind of that flavor that I talked about. It makes adventuring kind of a driving force. Why do people go into dungeons? Why are people trying to just hack down monsters left and right? Because they're trying to get a level. They're trying to experience. And it can be just different, fun distraction from our normal way we play games and the things that we do. So there's a lot of reasons to do it, and it's kind of fun. So there's two different techniques that I'll talk about. One is my own ideas that I've come up with that I'd like to put forward, and the second is from a swag product, the Savage Worlds Adventure Guild product called Golden Glory: The 7 Deadly Dungeons. And that's a pretty cool supplement. It's really, its whole vibe is trying to do things more OSR. It has like random character generation, and it has some dungeons you can go through. But one of the things they have for leveling is this gold is XP, and they say for each gold point or each gold piece equals 1 experience point. And then they have kind of this experience table where to get for each advance on novice is 50 gold pieces, on seasoned it's 100 gold pieces, on veteran is 150 gold pieces. So you can see right away that the expectation is there's not a lot of gold in the dungeons. You're getting a few pieces because otherwise you'd be advancing really rapidly, and that's kind of the deal. Second part of their technique is you don't gain a level unless you spend that gold on certain things. And in their case, it's carousing, magical research, or offerings to Solus, which is kind of the god. So if you don't spend your coin on that, you don't get the experience points. So buying a bigger sword apparently doesn't give you experience, spending the money on that. But spending the money on these other items do. And every time you spend money on those activities, you draw a card, and then that card gives you something that happens based on that. So for example, if we draw a carousing card, if we get a 3, it says too much is too much. Lower your vigor by 1 die type until your next activity. If we drew on the magical research, and let's say we draw a 9, it says perfecting the art. Increase your spellcasting by 1 die type until your next activity. So not only do you get the levels, you also kind of draw a card and see some interesting stuff that goes on there. So it's a cool supplement. I've read it through a couple of times, and I think the biggest issue with this particular system is it assumes there is very little gold, because otherwise people would be leveling up very quickly. I do like that you have to spend that gold or on kind of these different areas in order to get the experience or raise your experience or get that level. So that's kind of cool. Doesn't talk anything about really monsters helping you level up, and I think part of that is, you got experience points for monsters as well in kind of that old school feel. It's not just gold, though sometimes it is just gold, as for example in this supplement, but I also want to think about, going in and defeating monsters. If you want to defeat a monster and get that experience points, you can. Now, I know in kind of some of the OSR feelings is monsters are tough, you can easily die, so outsmarting them and getting around them and being able to kind of get their gold or their treasure without actually defeating them is kind of a side effect of the game. And so that's absolutely cool. And you could still give them experience points for defeating monsters, which maybe aren't exactly chopping them down, but outsmarting them and getting around them in some shape or form. So that's up to you. So the second technique I'll talk about is kind of my own that I'm thinking about looking at. And in the comments, if you've done this, please add a comment on how you handle sort of this get gold for XP, monster attack for XP to do leveling up in Savage Worlds, because that would be just really cool to share that with everybody, and we all learn together that way. So my take is based on kind of what's in the Fantasy Companion. And so the Fantasy Companion talks about treasure types. And there's a table on page 150 where you roll it and it says if you get meager treasure, it's 1d10 times 100 gold pieces. So between 100 gold pieces and 1,000 gold piece. And then magic items are, you roll a d6 and it's d6 minus 4. So you might get 0 magic items, maybe 1, maybe 2. And then there's talks about substantial treasure, which is a stash found in a bandit, marauder, or in a bandit, marauder, or deadly creature's lair. That's 1d10 times 1,000 gold pieces, and then 1d6 minus 3 magic items. So it kind of ratchets up. There's substantial, there's rich, then there's a trove, which is a vault or a dragon's hoard, and that's now 1d10 times 10,000 gold pieces, and that has 1d6 minus 1 magic item. So you could get 0, but you're more likely to get a couple of magic items in that vein. So using that as kind of the basis of treasure levels and the kinds of gold you'd be throwing out there, I came up with one that differs a little bit from the 7 deadly dungeons. And mine is to make your advance in the novice area, it's 1,000 gold pieces per advance. Then it ratchets it up. So as you get into seasoned, it's 3,000 gold pieces per advance. Then veteran, 6,000 gold pieces per advance. And where does that come from? Well, that comes from, again, these gold piece. So if we talk about the meager, where the players are kind of going against weaker creatures, you might just find that in, bandits may have this on them. The chieftain of the orcs may have something like that. Then you are starting to get 1d10, 100 gold pieces. So on average, you're rolling about a 5. So you get about 500 gold pieces per major encounter that you might come into. So it makes sense that there could be 2 to 3 major encounters that will level you up as far as at a novice rank. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, magic items can throw a whole monkey wrench, because if you randomize your magic items, the players might get a magic item that's worth 10,000 gold pieces. So I wouldn't make magic item treasure that they gain drive experience points. I'd really focus on monetary things that they got. So if they found gems they can sell, they found gold, silver, all that kind of stuff. Even, a tapestry, which is worth money, drive it. That XP is based on money that they get, not magic items. Even if they sell a magic item, they'll have a lot of money they can spend, but that doesn't give them necessarily the experience points that come along with that. Now, I mentioned before, what about monsters? Because monsters are a key part of the adventuring reason people go out adventuring is to get gold, and monsters have gold, so we need to defeat monsters some way. So I had a system that I put together that says for each. So what does the experience points look like? So for we don't have things like challenge ratings and stuff like that. So for a monster, I say about 10 XP for each toughness level. So a monster that's only toughness 7, that's like 70 experience points there. Then I say for each special ability that's strongly positive, that's a positive ability, that's another 100 XP. Some creatures have monstrous abilities, or they have special abilities that are actually negatives. Their special ability is that they're tiny and they're weak. Okay, well that's interesting, but that's not positive. So why would I give you extra experience for that? So 100 experience points for each special ability. Then I look at 100 experience points for each edge that the creature has, and then finally 500 to 1,000. And this is going to be kind of the gut of you as a game master or how you're doing that for it to be a wild card. So a wild card. A hard wild card, probably 1,000 experience points, plus all these others adds up. So what does that look like? So pulling out the Pathfinder bestiary, we have something like a goblin. And a goblin has one special ability and a toughness of 4. So we're talking about 140 gold pieces. So or 140 experience. So that's a lot, right? So you might look at that and say, okay, that's probably too much. So let's ratchet that back down. So you got to use your common sense. And one of the things is the goblin's special ability isn't all that special. So maybe the goblin is really only worth 40 experience points. So now you can see to get 1,000 gold pieces, or 1,000 gold piece worth of experience, they're going to be getting treasure. They're going to be defeating kind of a bunch of goblin bandits. So 40 apiece there, split up among the party. It starts feeling right. It starts feeling like they can go and do a couple of encounters, get some money, and that'll start bumping them up to the next advance as they go through it. So let's look at another one. For example, a Wraith, which is a tougher creature and should be scary to novice level player, right? That has 770 because of the toughness, the number of special abilities that it has, and it's not a wild card. So it's just a matter of how tough this creature is that makes the difference to the players. It's a deadly creature. So going up against one of those and defeating it at a lower level, as a novice is tougher, and you get something worth it. That might be something that is a harder foe that's kind of at the end of a venture, right? They're going into the tomb, and at the end of the tomb is a wraith or whatever. So what about as you get higher and tougher? It's Savage Worlds. There's not the leveling curve, and creatures don't have that same curve, right? You don't, as you level up in D&D, you get more hit points, and now you're going against monsters that have more hit points. And so there's this kind of race of hit points and capability. We don't quite have that in Savage Worlds. So let's look at something like an adult black dragon, which would be more of a foe. It's a wild card, be more of a foe of a more powerful party. We're talking about maybe veteran, higher level seasoned, what have you. So an adult black dragon has about 4,900 experience points associated with it because of the number of edges that it has, and it has special abilities. It has arcane background edges, and it has a number of special abilities. And so you're getting, and its toughness is very high. So you're getting significant points for its toughness. It's got a lot of special abilities. It's got a lot of edges. And that, with it being a wild card and we throw 1,000 points on, we're looking at 4,900 points. So that feels right. You've got a veteran group that's trying to get 6,000 experience points to get to that next level. And you're splitting that amongst your party. So if you got 5 party members attacking an adult black dragon that has minions helping it out, you get all that done and you divide it by 5. And you've got the treasure that's there. This major encounter may give them an advance, and that's cool. And that's perfectly fine. We're not trying to also level set this with milestone advancement and, every couple of sessions you get an advance. This is based on money. So sometimes they're going to be feast or famine. Sometimes there's creatures with a lot of cash like a dragon that are tough to beat, and they come out of it rich, and they now have gold. Their coffers are filled. And sometimes they may be going against something like a wraith who doesn't really have a lot of money other than what might have been in the crypt he's in, but it's kind of cool. So the last thing I would say then, which is, again, old school, you have to find someone to train you. You don't just get your level automatically. There's a reason for it. You found somebody to train you. And I would say that's probably something where you'd say for the player to find a trainer or somebody who can bring them to the next level, sort of like that downtime thing that was in the 7 Deadly Dungeons, Golden Glory, is you probably need like 500 gold pieces, per advanced level. So to get that first advance, you're going to need like 500 gold pieces, which makes sense, right? Because you're coming in, you've got your treasure from doing your dungeon delving, you've got creature experience. So that 500 you might have really wanted to spend on new armor, but you need to spend it on an advance. So 500 gold per advance just to find an instructor to teach you, and that'll pull some of that gold out of the economy. And there's a reason why they need gold too. So those are some of the ideas I had around doing old school gold and monster killing for experience in Savage Worlds. The Gold and Glory 7 Deadly Dungeons is a cool supplement. Probably want to pick it up, read it, just for some ideas, and it's got a couple of cool maps in it. So it's a really good thing to have. Not that expensive. And then maybe this is for an interesting kind of short campaign series, more of one-shot dungeon delves as players gain experience to use this system to get that old flavor and feel. I'm not sure I would use it for a year-long campaign. That might be kind of weird for some players who aren't used to it. But hey, for kind of breaking it up and giving some of that old school feel for your dungeon delving and having a reason for people to go into a mega dungeon and do something, it might work out great. So once again, I'm Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. Would really love your support. Likes, subscribes, really like subscribes because that looks really cool when the numbers go up. So help us out. Leave a comment on how you do experience points in your Savage Worlds game if you're trying to do an old school feel, and some of your ideas, because then we can all learn together, and those ideas might make a lot of sense to me and I'll want to incorporate. So thanks so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
One of the best games today. Savage World. Benny, enhance my play. Savage World. Different setting any day.